Please remain seated. I attended my very first MDRT meeting 35 years ago. What did I take away? What didn't I take away? Two big things come to mind. One for my heart and one for my brain. First, I saw what I wanted to become. And second, the best always seemed to make it look really simple. You know, if you take a rubber band and stretch it as far as it can go, it'll snap. But if you stretch your heart and your brain, they'll stay there. That first meeting I went to in New York City, I was in my 20s. I was single. I had a full head of hair. And now, it's not that funny. And now, in my 60s, as a grandfather, I hope I am exactly what I prayed I might be fortunate enough to become, with your help, someone lucky enough to be with you this morning. Is it qualifying for the $1 Million Roundtable, or is it attending the annual meeting? Is it the chicken, or is it the egg? What's the takeaway? You can't go to the annual meeting if you don't qualify. However, I knew I wouldn't have qualified if I hadn't have gone to the annual meeting. I don't know where those last 35 summers have gone. They've vanished. But all the meetings I've attended have been different, and yet they've all been the same. I never went to one as a tourist. What did I take away with my heart? The best always seemed to make it look simple. We're artists of the spoken word. Some of our most accomplished, classically trained members almost seem to speak as if it's italics. What do I mean by that? Let me tell you a story. I was sitting in my office one morning and the phone rang. A business and community leader in my hometown was at the other end of the line. The call was out of the blue. We knew each other socially, but it was strictly not business. And he said to me, "They tell me I need some life insurance. Can you come over?" And I replied, "Gosh, I don't get many calls like this, but I'd be honored to come over and visit with him." And the following afternoon, in his office, he explained his assistant would join us in this meeting and take notes so that he could ask questions freely and not forget any of my answers. The very first question he asked me was this: "So why do I need $1 million of life insurance?" How would you answer that question? I paused and stated rather simply, because when a man loves a woman, she gets better looking every day. And I've seen the way you look at Kate. I didn't have to say anything more. I didn't have to say anything less. How did I know? Because he had tears in his eyes. And the room was very quiet. No one needed to say anything. And then his assistant started crying. And he looked over at her and said, "You're not making this any easier." And we all laughed. And he said, "Okay, sign me up." And I said, "Have you ever been asked for your autograph before?" At this point in my life in general, and my career in particular, I don't want to look like someone who hasn't made. I want to look like someone who wants to help others. This has been a great life, and it will continue to be so as long as I can continue to help others. If someone passes through our lives, then they should be better for it. Buying life insurance isn't a commercial transaction. It's an exchange of emotion. One Saturday afternoon, my beautiful wife and I attended a wedding. It was the son of a longtime client of mine getting married that day. And we sat in the back row of this beautiful church behind a couple who had 4 great-looking children. The kids were full of it that afternoon, and Mom and Dad really had their hands full. I had met this young man before. He was in his mid-30s and was an up-and-comer in my client's successful company. When Monday morning arrived, I had a job to do. I picked up the phone and I called him. And I said, "Arnie, it was great seeing you Saturday. You and Ann have a beautiful family." He said, "I hope they weren't too loud." And we both laughed, and I said, "No, it's the sound of life itself." I continued by saying, "You probably know what I do for a living. Would you mind if I ask you a question wrapped around a statement?" And he said, "No, what is it?" And I said, "I hope you own a lot of life insurance." His pause seemed to last all morning. And he finally said, "Maybe you should come over." Would it surprise any of you that I asked Arnie for his autograph the following afternoon? Of course not. He and Ann now have 6 beautiful children, and they love every one of them. But I have to tell you a secret. It takes courage to pick up the phone and ask someone to do something for someone they love. I couldn't have done it without your inspiration. Being able to dream with my eyes wide open in a dark auditorium on mornings just like this at the annual meetings helped pull me up to my full height. This is not rocket science. At the high end of the life insurance profession, it's simply a combination of social intelligence and percentages, your heart and your brain. And your heart beats a little louder this week. The best always seem to make it look simple. And you know, if you do take that rubber band and stretch it as far as it goes, it will eventually snap. But when you do that with your heart and your brain, they stay there.